Thank you, Prabhu. So at the end of that chapter, after giving just thumbnail descriptions of all of the different avatars, Sutta Goswami then speaks this summary verse, which is considered one of the Mahavakya, the great verses of Bhagavatam. Ete changsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge Ete Changsa Kalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Please chant. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakalam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakalam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Ete Chamsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakalam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. One more. Ete Changsa Kala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam Indrari Vyakalam Lokam Mridayanti Yuge Yuge. Okay, synonyms together, please. Ete, all these, Cha and Amsa, plenary portions, Kala, portions of the plenary portions, Pumsa, of the Supreme, Krishna, Lord Krishna, to, but, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Swayam, in person, Indrari, the enemies of Indra, Yakulam, disturbed, Lokam, all the planets, Mridayanti, gives protection, Yuge, in different ages. Before we go on, Nate, could you scroll back? Just want to point out these two words, Angsa and Kala. So Angsa is a plenary portion. What is a plenary portion? Right. It's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? I'd like a complete portion of that, please. But it's plenary in the sense of qualitatively, all of the powers of God are present in this portion of God. So Angsa and then Kala are portions of the plenary portions. So there are various categories of avatars, and these include those that are partially empowered, fully empowered, empowered in one area, and they are summarized in this chapter. And then after describing them all, he says in this summary verse, Ete cha angsa kala, all the angsas and kalas, all the various degrees of avatars are portions of the Supreme. But Krishna is the Supreme person in person. That's why this is such an important verse. So I'll give you a little tip for giving classes and coming off as like really learned. Just learn that one line, maybe the first two lines, or the second line, and maybe the first two. And you can reference the verse as if you know the whole thing. Okay. In other words, remember this one phrase, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. That Krishna, but Krishna is the supreme person. The example is given in the Brahma Samhita that if you have one candle and use it to light many other candles, they all burn equally brightly. but the first candle has the distinction of being numero uno. So Krishna is the source. Just right down to it, theism means to accept there is a source of everything. And atheism means it happens by accident. So, okay. So we'll go into the other half in a moment. Let's read the translation together, please. All of the above mentioned incarnations are either plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions of the Lord. But Lord Shri Krishna is the original personality of God. All of them appear on planets whenever there is a disturbance created by the atheists. The Lord incarnates to protect the theists. Whoever would like to take the first paragraph, please.
Particular stanza, Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is distinguished from other incarnations. He is counted amongst the avatars, incarnations, because out of his causeless mercy, the Lord descends from his transcendental abode. Avatara means one who descends. All the incarnations of the Lord, including the Lord himself, descend to the different planets of the material world, as also in different species of life, to fulfill particular missions. Sometimes he comes himself, and sometimes his different plenary portions, or parts of the plenary portions, or his differentiated portions, directly or indirectly empowered by him, descend to this material world to execute certain specific functions. Originally, the Lord is full of all opulences, all prowess, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. When they are partly manifested through the plenary portions, or parts of the plenary portions, it should be noted that certain manifestations of his different powers are required for those particular functions. When in the room small electric bulbs are displayed, it does not mean that the electric powerhouse is limited by the small bulbs. The same powerhouse can supply power to operate large-scale industrial dynamos with great volts. Similarly, the incarnations of the Lord display limited powers because so much power is needed at that particular time.
In this paragraph, we learn the answer to the question that has vexed Christianity for 2,000 years. Is Jesus God or not? And according to the particular sect of Christianity, some people say he is God. Some people say he's part of a Trinity, that God is the Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And it is bewildering. There's no clear answer. But here, Prabhupada just spells it out. There are avatars, and then there are empowered living beings who get differentiated parts of his power. So Jesus is considered an avatar. He's one who descends, but not as a plenary portion of God, but empowered by God for a particular time. And Jesus himself said, "There's much I have yet to tell you, but you can't bear to hear it right now." So he was just giving what was appropriate for the audience. And this is important in how we present spirituality to other people. How much can they absorb? Nate and I were talking about how, did you do the class on Tuesday last week? You're doing this one, okay. So the important thing in presenting Krishna consciousness is to understand our audience. We may, that's why, honestly, laptops drive me nuts when devotees bring them in for Bhagavatam class, or like a list of things. Okay, I'm making this point, this point, this point. I don't care what anyone else is thinking. I'm going to make my points. Like, we got to consider, who are we talking to? How are they responding? Right? So to give too much information is the most common mistake. As we know a lot about spirituality. I mean, how many people in Gainesville right now are attending a class on spiritual science? So what happens is you attend these classes and stay awake for some of them. You learn things, and the knowledge that you gain is kind of accumulates, and it's very powerful, but it's subtle. So you don't realize how much you're learning. Like when you take off in an airplane, at first you feel the G-force against the seat, but when you're up cruising, it seems like you're not moving at all. But if you put your head out the window, you find out just how fast you are moving, isn't it? So you're at a certain level of spiritual understanding that most people don't really get, even when you study religion academically, right? Like there's so many different traditions, philosophies, but the impact of spirituality is measured by, as Jiva Goswami says, by how detached one has become from material things. Doesn't mean we stay away from material things. It means we learn to use them with discretion. And so the presentation of this kind of information has to be tempered or preceded by sufficient knowledge of the audience. This is the point. So before we start sharing all of this accumulated spiritual wisdom, we want to find out what are the person's needs and interests and concerns. So that takes a little thoughtfulness. It's like ready, aim, fire. Not ready, fire, aim. Okay, so in understanding these avatars, I want to go back to the verse for a moment, the translation. So we understand the first half, that is about how Krishna reveals himself proportionately to the audience. Second half, he says, all of them appear on planets where there is a disturbance created by the atheists. This is Prabhupada's generic translation. The verse specifically mentions Indrari, Vyakulam, and the enemies of Indra. So today is the appearance day of Vamanadev, and he came specifically to aid Indra and his cohorts in their distress. So that's what I'm going to take a minute now and just talk about this particular avatar, Vamanadev. He is glorified as one of the 10 avatars in Jayadev Goswami's famous poem, Das Avatar Stotram. So he's a very important presence in the pantheon of avatars. The whole Bhagavatam, if we step back, it's really a story of creation and all the details about how the material energy is manifest, everything from sound, and then it goes into all of the various components. And then here's this big, beautiful creation, and then the next step is to fill it up with life. So Krishna impregnates this material nature just by his glance. And all the living entities enter various kinds of material bodies according to their karma. So the newly populated universe needs to get filled up. That's the first order of business in Srimad Bhagavatam once the creation takes place. So there are various prajapatis, those who are charged with filling the universe, men and women. And so amongst them, there are two sisters, Diti and Aditi. So in the third canto, their respective pregnancies are described. Diti was impatient. Aditi had the first children, and then her sister Diti became jealous and became impatient. I want children right now. And so her husband Kashyapa was busy in meditation, and she said, "Excuse me," and he said, "Okay, I'll definitely take care of this, but it's not the right time. Just please be patient." But she persisted and said, "No, right now." And he said, "This is an auspicious moment, etc., etc." But as wives usually do, she prevailed. The pregnancy of Diti in the evening is this entire chapter of the third canto. And this inauspicious conception resulted in very demoniac children. So the descendants of Diti are called the Daityas, the demons. And the sons of Aditi are called the Adityas, or the demigods. So then the rest of Bhagavatam is full of these battles between these two family members. If you don't fight with your family, who are you going to fight with, right? So they're constantly battling for supremacy. In the 8th canto, we read how they're trying to cooperate to churn the ocean of milk to produce the nectar of immortality, and then how it's produced, and then they fight over it. It's just one endless string of battles. So the particular occasion for Vamana avatar was based on a time when the demons, the Daityas, were very powerful. They were led by Bali. And Bali refers to strength. So Bali had conquered the heavenly kingdom and driven out all of the demigods headed by Indra. So Indraya Vyakalam, the great disturbance in the heavenly kingdom, had been caused by Bali. Indra, of course, is the chief of the demigods and the one responsible for rain and weather. And so when he was disturbed, the whole universe was disturbed, but Bali managed to defeat even this very powerful demigod. So Indra, in his distress, as always, turns to Lord Vishnu. This is the problem with the demigods, that they're pious, they believe in God, but they forget about him because they're busy enjoying their lives in the material world. And this is a very high kind of pleasure in the material world. In the heavenly planets, you don't grow old. You have a very great duration of life, anything you want to eat, any kind of enjoyment you wish. And even pregnancy only occurs at the very end of life. So there's no hassle with all of that business. And the demigods enjoying their lives are sometimes bewildered and forget Krishna until they're in distress. So this is what happened. So when the demigods lost their kingdom, Aditi went to her husband to say, how can we get our kingdom back for our children? And her husband advised her to do this 12-day austerity called the Hayavrata? Hayavyoma Vrata, something, yes. Again, a chapter is dedicated to that in Bhagavatam. So she worshipped Vishnu for 12 days with great austerities. Oh, thank you so much. I was going to ask you to do that. She worshipped Vishnu for all these days, and then he came to her and said, okay, I'll be your son. And this way I'll take care of Indra's problems. So this is his appearance as Vamanadev. This is Aditi on the left, and Kardam. No. What's the name of her husband? No, that was Aditi and I forgot. That's what I'm saying. Kashyapa also? He was the husband of both. Oh, okay. Polygamy. Oh, okay. So, well, that makes their sibling rivalry even more intense. It's amazing how much of the Bhagavatam is just about brothers fighting. So, Vamanadev said, don't worry, I'll resolve this problem. And he took this form as a very humble Brahmin boy, very young, very petite. Children have a charm, as you know, that allows them to just go anywhere and do anything. If you or I walked into a room where there was an adult conversation going on, we'd be shooed out. But a little child comes walking in and everyone says, oh, come on in. This is how the Kumaras were going to enter the kingdom of God. They're just going to walk right in until Jai and Vijay stop them. So in this way, little Vamanadev, the cute little Brahmin boy, just went into the court of Bali Maharaj unchallenged. He didn't come in with an army. He didn't come in a threatening way, just wandering in. And Bali said, oh, come in, a Brahmin. Now, these kings, even if they are from the wrong side of the family, they all value charity and other pious deeds because they understand the science of karma and reincarnation. So they want the chance to feed a Brahmin and treat a Brahmin nicely is a great pious opportunity. So Bali said to him, please come, take some charity. And he said, oh, thank you very much, great king. And Bali said, what would you like? I'll give you a whole planet. I rule the whole universe. And Vamanadev said, no, I just need 3 steps of land, just a little place to lie down. And Bali said, you're being immature. You're not thoughtful. I could give you so much. So then Vamanadev said, if a person's senses are uncontrolled, he may own everything, but he won't be satisfied. So this indirectly, he's poking at Bali Maharaj. But Bali says, all right, I'll give you what you want. 3 steps of land. Then Bali's guru stepped in. His name was Sukracharya. So Sukra means semen. So Sukracharya means like the family guru. And so this family elder with a ritualistic tradition came and said, wait a minute, this is Vishnu in disguise. He's here to steal things from you. Don't give him what he wants. Don't give him anything. So then Bali was quite perplexed because he said, Gurudev, you've always told me to worship Vishnu, but now you're telling me not to give because he's Vishnu. Now, what am I supposed to do? Does this remind you of anywhere in Bhagavad Gita? Arjuna is asking Krishna, first you tell me to be a transcendentalist, and then you tell me to fight. Could you please make up your mind? So these contradictory instructions given by Bali, guru, Sukracharya, forced Bali to make a decision. Am I going to follow my guru, or am I going to follow what my guru taught me? Since he's now contradicting himself. And he chose, I'm going to follow his instruction, because that's verified by scriptures and by saintly persons. So then he said, all right, take your 3 steps of land. So then Vamanadeva, the little Brahmin, expanded himself to a massive size. His first step, he stepped all through the heavenly planets, all the way to the top of the universe. He punctured the border of the boundary of the universe, which allowed celestial Ganges to flow in. And then with step number 2, he stepped all the way to the bottom of the universe, where all the hellish planets exist, and covered all of those too, as shown in this picture, courtesy of Krishna.com. Just make sure we don't get sued. So then, having placed 2 steps, he looked at Bali and said, you promised me 3, where shall I put my 3rd step? And Bali Maharaj took off his crown and said, please put it here on my head. Well, in this way, Bali is exalted as one of the Mahajans, the 12 great authorities in bhakti, because he was willing to reject even his guru for the higher purpose of serving Vishnu. So in this way, Vamandev relieved the anxiety of the demigods and his mother, and he also exalted Bali Maharaj, because he was willing to give up everything for the service of Krishna. So he gave Bali the post as the director of one of the lower planets. And life on the lower planets, if you read in the 5th canto, it's also pretty nice. Only the hellish planets are bad, but even the lower planets in the universe are very opulent. Right? So anyway, this is the story of Vamandev. Anyone else like to share any pastimes or any questions about Vamandev? Yes, Prabhu.
It seems a little surprising that if he was from a demon family and he was troubling like the denizens of heaven, suddenly on seeing Vishnu, he had a change of heart and he offered himself. Like, was there any other what's the secret? How could he have a sudden change of heart?
He had such a drastic change of heart to go from conquering the demigods to surrendering to Vishnu. This is like the change of heart that takes place when we accept that we are not supreme. And this is the disease in the material world. We all think we're the center of everything. You think you're the center of everything, when in reality, of course, I'm the center of everything. This is how we're thinking, and creates envy, creates tension. So there are demons like Hiranyakashipu and Ravana who knew that Vishnu is supreme, but they were convinced that they could get around it. If they worked hard enough, they could. So they were just going to surpass Vishnu. But the difference then is Bali, although an asura, recognized that no, Vishnu, I have to submit to Vishnu. The other consideration is that his grandfather was the son of Hiranyakashipu, Prahlad Maharaj. So Prahlad Maharaj is from the family of the Daityas, but of course, because he was instructed by Narada Muni, he knew what was what. So you could say, like alcoholism, it skips a generation. So when Bali surrendered, his grandfather came and praised him. Well done, well done. Okay? And in the Gita, Krishna says in chapter 10, he says, amongst the Daityas, I am Prahlad. Okay? So, anything else on Lord Vamandev?
There's another connection between those two leelas of Nrsimhadev and Vamanadev from the avatar point of view. When Nrsimhadev noticed parental affection between Prahlad and his father, because he came out of the pillar, he didn't understand this. So therefore, there was a birth of the seed of his desire to have parents, which he experienced as Vamanadev.
Oh, okay.
So there's a krama or progression of even between the avatars in terms of what they experience.
Very nice. Thank you. What year is this? Way back. It's Satya Yuga, I presume. Yeah.
And so it goes like chronologically. It goes Nishima, Dave, and then.
Okay. No, I hate to disappoint you, but Srimad Bhagavatam and chronology do not mix because it's presented thematically with references to stories from various times and places. So, but yes, Nrsimha is an earlier avatar, but not by much. You have to remember, Jai and Vijay were amongst the first progeny in the universe, and so their incarnation appeared, Prahlad appeared, and then Prahlad's son's son. Was it Virochana? I believe was the son. Virochana was then the father of Bali. So, okay. Is that right? It'll drive you nuts trying to get these things sequential.
A quick note, when Shukracharya told him not to follow, Bali Maharaj not to follow Vishnu's request, he said that the earth can bear a lot of weight, including mountains, but it cannot bear the weight of one lyre. So we wrote that on a poster in 2016 and went on a Harinam when everybody was protesting against Trump. And
we are officially neutral in these matters. Go ahead.
And the other one was, so Bali's sister, she saw Vamanadev and she was attracted because he was like this cute little boy and she had motherly affection. And but when he bound Bali, then she was upset about it. So because of that mixed attraction and aversion, she came as Putna. Yeah, she came as Putna because she had a lot of affection for it. But then she got the opportunity to serve him as a nurse.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. Thank you. Okay, time is going, so we'll go on to Bhaktivinoda Takura. Okay, so this morning we're going to sing a few bhajans, but first I'd like to say a few words about his appearance. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda means what? What is the name? Bhaktivinoda. The expert or the abode, the shelter of Bhaktivinoda. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was born in 1838, which was the year the British were ruling India. The British had come to India, which was a diverse continent of small kingdoms in the 1700s, and they managed through diplomacy to unite the country under their rule. So they did good things for India in terms of the Industrial Revolution, in terms of organization, but they decimated the culture and stole the wealth, much of the wealth of India. A lot of what is in the British Museum is from India. It was the crown and the jewel and the crown of the British Empire. That was what India was called. So they ruled India in this way for until 1947, for about over 200 years. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur was born in this environment where a small number of British elite were ruling the entire subcontinent. So he grew up in a village which was not so affected by these politics because their way of life had gone on for generations. It was a Kali worshipping village, and they ate fish that they call sea subji, and his parents on both sides were very wealthy. In the village, they were like the landowners, they were the elite. So he had a very comfortable and pleasant and joyful childhood in that environment. So his brother, he and his brother were sent to a school, which is common in village India. The villages could not themselves support higher education, so the children from the village would go off to a boarding school. So he and his brother both went to a boarding school for that reason. And his life there was not bad. All of this is described in a letter that he wrote to one of his 13 children, Lalit Prasad. His son asked him, "Please, Father, tell me about your life." So he wrote an extensive description of his life, autobiography, with an explicit condition: this should not be shared or published. And of course, it has been shared and published, although not extensively. It hasn't really been that. Has anyone read this, the story of Bhaktivinoda's life? So it's a little bit, it hasn't been put front and center, but it is available. So anyway, he and his brother were at the boarding school, and then on the way back, his brother fell ill for a little vacation at home. And then when they reached the village, he died. And this was a huge shock to Bhaktivinoda in this midst of his very joyful life. And then others in his family started dying. His father died. All of his siblings died. And in the course of that, they lost all of their wealth. They were somehow cheated out of all of their wealth. So he went from this very joyful life to all of a sudden finding himself at 15, and married, by the way, with a child, to be the sole support of his mother and family. His mother had told him of all of her children, he was the ugliest. So it's not like Sophie's Choice, wasn't it? Where his mother told every one of her children, "I have to tell you privately, you're my favorite child. Don't tell the others." Just the opposite. So there he was, ugly and 15, having to support his family. And he had to stop his education in order to work. So he took very entry-level jobs, and eventually, through self-education, was able to qualify as a teacher. So he worked as a teacher for some time. At one point, he worked as a tax collector for the British. And eventually, he gained a reputation for intelligence and competency and reliability that got him promoted to more and more responsible positions within the government. Even now, it's a good thing to get a government job in India, right? Government job means you get more security than the average person. So they're coveted positions to work for the government. So Bhaktivinoda's life was unfolding. He gained financial security, took care of his family, expanded his family, ultimately had 13 children. And through those years, he was also, he kind of gave up his religious beliefs from his upbringing. And he began exploring the British promoted theology of Christianity. He didn't take to that. He studied some hybrids known as theosophy, part Hinduism, part Christianity. He rejected that. He studied Jainism, all of the contemporary philosophies of the day, and could not find an answer to his probing intellect in terms of his spiritual quest. Then, in a very surprising way, he discovered the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a philosophy behind them. The followers of Chaitanya were known in society as very low-class people. They chant Haribol, Haribol, and they drink and they carouse. I'm Radha, you're Krishna, I'm Radha, and also, so they were just considered low class and certainly not philosophical people. So this was an unusual place for him to find a very deep and rich philosophy. But it struck him so powerfully that for the rest of his life, he became an exponent of Chaitanya's teachings. And not only teaching what he learned, but he dug in and found out these obscure texts about Chaitanya, such as Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, that were virtually lost. And he was able to bring them into a modern sphere. So it was he who first envisioned the whole world could practice the teachings of Chaitanya, because it went above the casteism and racism that characterized Hinduism then and now. So this is his great legacy. He lived to be 76 years old, wrote 100 books, served as a magistrate all those years, many years. Magistrate was the highest position one could hold in the British government. Combination of judge and mayor within the city. So he did this in Jagannath Puri. And he was so valued by the government that the government built a special rail line from Calcutta to his house in Navadvip, which still exists. It's a thin gauge railway, just so he could conveniently go for his duties. He wanted to be posted. They wanted him to go to Calcutta. He refused. He wanted to go to Jagannath Puri, the Holy Dham. So that's where he served as magistrate. So there's much more to say in that. I hope that letter becomes more readily available. But for the meantime, let's do a couple of his bhajans, some of the 100 songs that are from the excerpts from the 100 books that he wrote. So I chose a couple of real missionary bhajans this morning for the hardcore devotees. Okay. This is a bhajan that describes Lord Chaitanya getting up in the morning and going out for Sankirtan first thing. So to save time, why don't we do this? We'll sing the Bengali responsively and then the English together. Okay? Udilo Aruna Pura Babaju Jamani Gora Mani Chage Rakata Samuha Loya Sate Kela Nagara Brache King the first red of dawn in me. Up from his bed rose the gem of the priest, gathering all his devotees around. He danced through the countryside, hamlets and town. Tatai, tatai, bacho loko, gana gana tahe jatira ro. Preme thala thala sonaranga charane nupura bache. Tatai, tatai, sang the drums loud and sweet. Kartals and wampers precisely kept beat. Zanko bells jangle, while just above. Goranga's golden form trembled in love. Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari, Bole no Bolo Re Badana Bori. Michineda Base Gelore Rate, Ibasa Sarira Saje. Mukunda Madhava Yadava Hari, poured from the lips of the blissful devotees. People, they shouted your corpses at night, and all day you dress up your bodies just right. Emana Durlaba Manava Deho, Payaki Koro Bhavana Keho. Ebina Bajile Yashoda Sutta Charme Poti Bela Birth as a human is so very rare. You have this blessing, but don't seem to care. Snubbing the worship of Yashoda's son. Slowly you dwindle, decay, done. Utita tapana hoile asta. Dinagelo bole hoi bibyasta. Abe kino ebe alasoy nabajaridoya raje. As the sun rises and as the sun sets, you waste another day without regret. Why are you idle and when will you start to understand God who resides in your heart? Jivana Nitya Janhasa Tahena Navina Vipadabha Namashraya. Sorry. Jivana. Namashraya Kori Jatane Tuni Takalapanaka Life is as fleeting. Jivera Kalyana. Aditya Tindira Tapana Luka. Call out for Krishna and make the sun rise, blessing and brilliantly lighting the sky, both in your own and in everyone's heart. Conquer your ignorance, rise from the dark. Krishna Namaste. Bhaktivinoda loudly proclaims, drink the pure nectar of Krishna's sweet name. These holy names are my very life. Nothing in all 14 worlds can compare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, sorry, I lost my voice shouting at all those lazy materialists. It's up to you. We have one more. You'd like we could do? Okay. I know you wouldn't be doing that if there were breakfast. Boro suker kaborgai, boro suker kaborgai. Surabi kunjete namer hatuleche. I sing of ecstatic news, blissful and fantastic news. Nittai's kirtan marketplaces and Surabi Kundam. Kodanitai, 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 Kodanitai. Boro moja katatai, bojo moja katatai. Shradhabule Shuddha Nama Sehate Tikai. Sehate Tikai. There are smiles on every face in that holy marketplace. Krishna's holy names are sold for just the price of fame. Kodanitai, Kodanitai. Jata Bhakta Vrindavasi, Jata Bhakta Vrindavasi. Adhikari Deke Nama Beche Darokasi. All devotees are attracted to the market's interactions. Nittai qualifies each buyer and conducts transactions. Kodanitai, Kodanitai. Jatinama Kimbe Bai, Jatinama Kimbe Bai. Amar Sange Chalo Mahajaner Kache Jai. Brother, if you want to buy, let us go now, you and I. Let us go and meet with the illustrious Nitai. Kodanitai, Kodanitai. To make him be Krishna Nama, to make him be Krishna Nama. Zasturi lo ide ami purna hapte kama. You will buy the name of Krishna, I will gather my commission. Then we both can relish our auspicious acquisition. Kodanitai, Kodanitai. Goro Doyo Nityananda, Boro Doyo Nityananda. Sudamatra Loye Den Parama Ananda. Nittai is so very generous, faith is all he's asking of us. In exchange, he gives us Pusambera, love and him. Kodanitai, Kodanitai. Ek bar dekhe chak se jal, ek bar dekhe chak se jal. Gora bole nitai den sakala sambam. Now chant Gora if he sees one teardrop in your eye. Anything you want or need, he surely will supply. Gora Nitai, Gora Nitai. Then Shuddha Krishna Siksha, then Shuddha Krishna Siksha. Jati Dhana Vidya Bala Nakore Apeksha. Krishna's teachings are so pure, this profound entrepreneur cares not for your knowledge, money, strength, or even your birth. Kodanitai, Kodanitai. Amani Chari Maya Jal, Mani Chate Maya Jal. Gine Tako Bane Tako Natate Janjal. Forest, home, or anywhere, shy as mountain, never stare. All at once you will be free of each and every care. Konita, Konita. Anaiko Kalir boy, Anaiko Kalir boy. Anchandale de nama nikta doyamoy. Although Kodanita, Kodanita. Bhakti no dake koi, bhakti no dake koi. Nitya charana bina arnahi ashray. Bhakti Vinoda cries out, Nitya's feet, there is no doubt, are the only shelter you can never do without. Kodita, Kodamita. Evil. Yes, Nitya is the marketeer, the entrepreneur, and what is the price? And what is the product? The product itself, not the byproducts. What is the product? The holy name. The holy name, right. You buy the holy name with faith, and then you get endless bliss, relief from all anxieties and cares. And Bhaktivinoda, see, he set up this marketplace in his neighborhood there, Surabi Kunj. That's the great news. Hey, we got a 7-Eleven right here. Yes. So then he says, you come and buy, and you'll be so happy with the product, and I get a commission from your purchase. So I'll present it in business terms. Anyway, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Lord Vamandev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Everyone needs to go, please. Go Gators. That's yes. Focus. Kabe, Kabe Habe Bolose Dinamo. Kabe Habe Bolose Dinamo. Tell me, please, when will I come to that day? Sorry, not very familiar with singing these. Aparada Gucci, Shudanama Ruchi, Kripa Bale Habe Hridaye Sancharam. Aparada Gucci, Shudanama Ruchi, all offenses ceasing as my taste increases, potent mercy transforming my heart with grace. Tell me, please, when will I come to that day? Trinadikahina kabeni jamani sanishtuta guna hridayeta ani. Trinadikahina kabeni jamani sanishtuta guna hridayeta Sakale manada apani amani haya ashvadivo. So that last line's cut off. Let's go ahead with the English. Like a blade of grass, when will I feel so lowly? When will my heart think of others tolerantly? Honoring all others, seeking no prestige, I'll taste the honey essence of the Lord's holy name. Tell me, please, when will I come to that day? Dana Jana Ara Kavita Sundari Balipana Chahideha Sukakari. Janme Janme Dao Ohe Gorahari. Something, 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 something. I don't think there's much we can. Oh, you just do it like that. Yeah, that's good. Ah, okay. This is not ready for prime time. Let's just do the English. I'll tell you what. Let's just do the English. Yeah. Followers and money, lovers, education. When will I trade pleasures for renunciation? Gora, as I suffer reincarnations, may the causeless mercy from your feet always stay. Tell me, please, when will I come to that day? Krishna, when will all my hairs rise? When will my voice falter and tears stream from my eye? Quaking limbs grow pale as my voice paralyzes every time I'm chanting Krishna's sweet holy name. Please, when will I come to that day? When will my heart truly cry out to Tagora? When in Navadvip will I run on Ganga's shores, singing Krishna's name and dancing evermore as aimless and uncaring as her Megonic sing. When will I come to that day? When will Nityananda show me his mercy, breaking my attachment to my vain fantasy? Shelter at the feet of Nitai gives one entry to the marketplace of Krishna's sweet holy name. purchased there or stolen, and the wrath shall be mine, overwhelming me like one who's drunk too much wine. Endlessly immersed in nectar divine, I will touch the lotus feet of one with taste for the name. Please, when will I come to? When will I care more for others' welfare than mine? When will I stop thinking of myself all the time? Bhaktivinoda gives heart and mind to humbly serve the mission. Yes, we can Okay, well, you have been part of the very first public chanting of that mantra, that song in English. So, all right, thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Krishna Lunch ki jai, Kornitai ki jai. How did we do?